Oliver Twist. Chapters 18-25. Chapter 18. Oliver is shot by Sikes. Chapter 18. When Oliver and Sikes left, it was raining. The streets were flooded with water. They walked for 3 miles and finally found Mr. Crackett's house. They greeted him and took him for the robbery. Oliver, horrified, and cries out to Sikes to let him run and he will never come back to London. Sikes is about to kill him, but Toby puts a hand on Oliver's mouth. Toby broke the lock of the window and commanded Oliver to go inside and unlock the front door. When Oliver went in, he decides to warn the family, so he tries to climb the stairs. Just then Sikes calls him back. Then Sikes shot Oliver and runs away. Chapter 19. Mr. Bumble and Mrs. Corney. The matter of Oliver's mother. Chapter 19. This chapter opens with a new character, Mrs. Corney, which is introduced as the matron of the workhouse. She was having her tea when there was a knock on the door. She opened the door and it was Mr. Bumble. She had a long talk with him and then she invites for a tea. They were having their tea when there was another knock on the door. The pauper said that old Sally is dying and she wants to say something. Mrs. Corney went to that ugly lady. Old Sally told her that many years ago there was a woman who gave birth to a child and died. Old Sally, stole some gold from her. Old Sally told the boy's name Oliver Twist and died before saying more. Chapter 20. Toby Crackett reports to Fagin. Chapter 20. Fagin is back in the den thinking about something. Just then the bell rings and Dodger opens the door. It was Toby Crackett alone without Oliver and Bill Sikes. He won't tell them anything without he has eaten something. Then he tells them the whole story. Then Fagin yells, tears his hair, and then runs out of the house. Fagin cools himself, almost getting run over in the street, asking every passerby that have they seen Oliver or Sikes. Soon he was near the Three Cripples, a bar where Sikes went. He went in and asked for Sikes. Next he took a coach to Nancy's house where she was drunken, and she also don't know of Sikes. Chapter 21. The Chase. Chapter 21. Sikes in the middle of the chase, pausing to rest while carrying the unconscious Oliver. He can hear the servants coming after him. He tries to get Toby to help, but he ran away. He threw Oliver in the ditch and also ran off. In the morning, Oliver gets up and stumbles over to the same house Sikes tried to rob. Inside, Mr. Giles and Mr. Brittle's 2 servants are telling the other savants their life stories as heroes. Oliver's feeble knock at the door frightens everything. Brittles opens the door to find Oliver lying on the stoop. They exclaim that Oliver is one of the thieves and drag him inside. Rose asks Brittles to call the doctor. Chapter 22. Oliver at Maylie's. Chapter 22. The chapter begins with a description of Mrs. Maylie, the mistress of the house at which Oliver is shot. She is a kind old-fashioned elderly woman. Her niece Miss Rose is an angelic beauty of 17. Mr. Losburn, the local doctor, arrives in a fluster. He proceeds to examine Oliver. Chapter 23. The Investigation. Chapter 23. Upon seeing Oliver, Miss Rose exclaims that Oliver cannot be probably a burglar unless evil men have forced them to do it. She begs her aunt not to send Oliver to prison. The aunt replied that she won't send him to prison. After waking, Oliver relates all his history to them that evening, making them cry. Mr. Losburn goes in the kitchen and pretends to be very angry and asks Giles that whether Oliver was the one who attempted the robbery. Giles sweared that he don't know. Just then, police arrives and investigated but didn't arrested anyone. Chapter 24. Oliver went to meet Mr. Brownlow. Chapter 24. Over a period of weeks, Oliver slowly begins to recover. He begs for some way to repay his benefactor's kindness. They tell him he can do so after he recovers himself. He told them about the kindness of Mr. Brownlow and requested that they wanted to meet. The following day, Dr. Losburn took Oliver to Pentonville so he could meet him both. They got to know that Mr. Brownlow and Mrs. Bedwin had got to West Inns. They took Oliver to the countryside. Now they were as a family. Oliver was returning from home after studying. When he reached home, he found that Rose was sick. Chapter 25. Fagin is here. Chapter 25. Oliver was surprised to see that Rose was dying. He was stunned and astonished. Oliver went out to get some flowers for Rose. He saw Mr. Giles and Harry Maylie coming. He asked Oliver that how was Rose feeling. She was feeling better than before. Later, Harry has a long emotional talk with his mother. One day Oliver was sleeping when he had a nightmare that Fagin and a man are pointing at him. Oliver wakes up to see Fagin and the other man in the garden. They disappear rapidly as Oliver calls for help.